So, good evening, guys. How are you all? So, firstly, I welcome all the ladies and gentlemen here. So, today we are having MUN workshop, that is the event organized by UNYC in collaboration with Jhankaar under the aegis of Division of Student Welfare, Lovely Professional University. So, how are you guys? Good evening. Guys, we don't want you to be so quiet. Well and good. You're good, ma'am. So, excited for the reopening? Excited. I'm asking about the LPU reopening. You go. Very excited. Of course, freshers would be more excited. I should say third year is more excited even. Waiting for offline classes. So hey guys, my name is Mehek and my co-host Arithaba would be continuing from here.
So hello guys, I am Arithaba Gupta, your today's co-host. Basically, I am a student of biotech second year. So guys, today is a lovely Sunday and thanks everyone. You all have joined, taking out some time from your lovely time. So what you guys are doing today, like how are you all spending this Sunday? I know now every day is like a Sunday only in this online mode and all. So guys, I would expect interactions in the chat box.
Well, everyone should speak out. Good Sunday. It's not good Sunday, I should say sleepy Sunday.
Yes.
No,
Exactly.
no
Rain plus
classes.
gold. Yes.
Rain plus music.
music.
Yeah, in Jalandhar right now it's raining. It's too good. I stand corrected.
Okay, okay. No issues. So, how many of you all know today is a workshop on MUN. So, how many of you? Yes.
Procrastination is everyone's cup of tea, I should say here. Well, we are having offline classes. Procrastination is must.
Okay, so we all know that today is the MUN workshop. So, how many of you in the audience have heard about MUN before, like in school life? Anything you all have anyone who performed before is there? Okay, Ankita Saxena, she has heard. Others? Okay,
Heard about it.
Vanshika also heard about it. Achha,
Ria, it's for new.
No issues today. You will be knowing everything about MUN in this lovely workshop by two of our elite speakers. So don't worry. Yes, Manasvi, you are right. Representing different countries and their issues. Okay, Gaurav, new for you. Okay, heard about it, don't know. Today, Deepak, today you will know many things about it. Don't worry, just hold your patience. Our speakers would acknowledge you everything about this. Participated in mock parliament competition at school, but not UN. Okay, so you are having a relatable experience. Okay, Vanshika was a part of it at school model UN. So Vanshika, would you like to come up and share some of your experience if you would like to? Like it would put a light on MUN for others also before our speakers come up and keep everything, give all the important information. Vanshika, if you are here, am I audible? Mehak?
Yeah, you are audible, Arithaba.
Okay,
Maybe Vanshika is somewhat tensed or somewhat shy.
Okay,
I am
no
unable
issue.
to. Oh, it's
Okay,
all
no.
right.
Technical
Vanshika.
glitch. Okay, no problem. Okay. So Vanshika, you can also share about your experience. So how you got introduced to MUN and how many years you did it? How many MUNs have you done? Can you say? In the chat box only you can interact with us. There is no issue. There is technical glitch. Okay, so you represented Brazil. Okay. I guess our speakers have joined.
Yeah, they would be joining, so
Okay,
they would be
Soumya
starting at 6:05.
Okay, no issues. Okay, Vanshika has been a part of two. Okay, but 2 years, it's a really long time and really a very great experience you had. Also, apart from Vanshika, Soumya Sharma. She's saying she has represented Nitin Gadkar in AIPPM. So Soumya, would you like to come up and share your experience?
Yes, I would. It was my first MUN. It was obviously inter school, so I didn't. I would be very honest with you guys. I wasn't. I was extremely nervous. Because it was my first time, obviously. So it was like a 3 day MUN. So on the first day, I didn't really speak anything, literally, because I was so I was super nervous, literally.
What
And
happened?
on the second day, I gave one speech, and on the third day, I also proposed two delegations. So it was a good experience, and now I wanna be a part of more MUN so that I can improve my skills. I can understand it, Soumya, because when I was part of it now on the first day, I wasn't knowing anybody. Even the when we have breaks, I was sitting alone. But on the second day, I had a confidence, I had that spirit. And on the third day, when I was going home, I got that medal, and I was so happy on that day because that medal meant something. It's actually so precious. Today, also, when I see that medal, now it gives me so much courage and everything because that was the day when you know nobody, but on that day, everyone knows you. So, of course, if you would do this MUN, you would get another experience. Absolutely.
Mehak, it seems that you are also having a lot of valuable experiences from MUN.
Yeah.
And anyone else who had this an early experience from MUN is you are open to come up and share your valuable experience with us before our speakers come up and say you. Let's see.
So, anybody up for their experiences, guys? Because I don't want this to be so boring that we two are speaking and we are just like chit chatting here.
Yeah, it would be really monotonous if you guys won't cooperate with us, don't interact with us. I don't want the session to be so monotonous because you guys just hold a little more patience. Our speakers would be joining soon, and also you would be knowing that the mock MUN is not so far. You guys would get to practice there also before the MUN comes up. So hold your beer. Anyone else? As in for
So,
ready
who
for
have,
experience and
yeah,
learning, yes, you would
ready for
get plenty
experience
of
and
it.
learning?
Yeah, you would get plenty of it. No issues. We would love to hear your experience, Prabha. Well, I am new in anchoring only. Okay, I am in Event YC and I am a very new member here. I have no experience in MUN and myself I am too much excited to know about MUN and everything. To be honest, okay, and I joined anchoring just a month ago, like, and this is one of my first events also. So literally, oh yes, Chandaharshita, you are most welcome. Please come up and share.
Hello, everybody. That's amazing to see everybody joining in the meet. And yeah, Mehek, Aritrava, and all of you. I was listening to you guys, and I've been seeing you guys since so long now. And that's amazing. I mean, the way you host the events and handle the audience is amazing. Yeah. And you guys are doing great. Keep it up. And yeah, talking a little bit about my experience, like how I started is like when I got into LP, I was like clueless, and I was thinking like how to even start this. I mean, I was already into public speaking and hosting and all of this. But like after getting into LP, I was like searching and I didn't know like what to do. And then I was like searching so many other ways, alternate ways, and yeah, like because people say that if you have the zeal and now enthusiasm to achieve something, that fire just keeps you going up there. So the same happened in my case, and I was like, searching different opportunities and tossing and turning around myself in different directions, and yeah, finally landed up, hosting like some great events in the beginning. Like before I got the opportunities, like hosting in the beginning, like for 3 minutes, 4 minutes introduction, like giving the intro about the speaker and then leaving the session. And yeah, in that way, like I got acquainted and accustomed to the ambience of hosting. And after that, I felt like, okay, wow, this is so amazing. I mean, the digital hosting, I haven't done the digital hosting ever. So Yeah, it was like completely different. And I'm a person who is like acquainted in doing the physical on stage hosting. So it was a little different for me, but yeah, I got then used to the platforms and all of that. And yeah, I mean, recently got to host on the university beats as well. And it feels really amazing. I mean, when the progression and the growth and the improvement happens, so it feels very happy. So I feel like you always should have a growth mindset, and like whatever the amount of opportunity it is, like you shouldn't be thinking like it's a small opportunity or a big one. So you just have to focus on the opportunity given, and then just try pulling it and elevating to the higher horizons, and just keep going on with that. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Chanda.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
Harshita, for your appreciation and for
Thank you.
interacting with us. I have also seen your hosting sessions, and literally, I'm inspired and I learn a lot from your sessions. I like attend many other sessions, so thanks for that.
Thank you so
And
much, guys. Thank you.
so anyone else who would like
Okay,
to
so many messages are here also, Ritraba. So talking
yes, yes.
about that, so you would be learning about how MUN works by this session. It would be surely an amazing session because the people who are going to guide you or who are going to tell you, they actually should say are so trained. I shouldn't say trained. They have been firstly participating them and then judging them even. So you can just see that being a student is different and being a judge is different. So they have learned, they have gone through so many sessions, they have attended so many MENs that they are very much, I should say, excited even to share everything with you all. So we would be looking forward to learn so many things. We are here to impart all the knowledge. So not these people would be guiding you to the prawns, cons, everything. I shouldn't say cons because there are no cons, I should say. It's only learning that you're gonna get here. And I mean, it's the best chance we can brush up those public speaking skills. I should say that first day when I was there, I wasn't able to speak much because I had that lacking because there were so many people in the room and I couldn't, speak in face to face. But on the second day when I was there, I could see people having I should say guts. That guts are so needed. Even if you are sitting in front of a camera, you need to see what all people are speaking and you need to avoid your negative comments, work on the positive ones and go on. As and Chanda, Harshita, we know each other very well. So yeah, Harshita is always like used to tell that how she was before, how she never actually did it before, but now she's well known everywhere. So that's the journey, guys. So firstly, anyone else here? Okay, so we are having our speaker here, guys. Firstly, when I am introducing that speaker, you should be so excited and I should see you all spamming the chat box because you would be so happy by seeing your all messages regarding, for him. So guys, kindly just, spam your messages in the chat box. So firstly, well, I'm talking about the person who has done around 30 MUNs, 30. And he has done even international MUN and he has been the part of 12 EBs. And talking about 12 EBs, EB is actually an executive board that's actually a sort of judges. And he was the judge for at least 12, 12. You can just see how much he's excellent in those skills that he was appointed as judge there. So he has done one international also. So the person I'm talking about is Kuvar Sahi. So firstly, I welcome you, sir. We all welcome you here from all UNYC. Jhankar, we welcome you. And we would like you to tell our audience everything you know about MU and guide them through all the ups and downs, I should say. So stage is all yours, sir.
Thank you so much, Mike, for the introduction. So, very good evening to everyone. I'm Kuvar Sahi. I'm a third-year biomedical engineering student at Lovely Professional University, and I'm also the MN coordinator of UNYC and the Director General of the upcoming session of the UNYC, that is Aspire MUN 4.0. So, as she has already given my introduction, I've done more than 30 MUNs, both national and international, as a delegate, executive board member, organizer, advisor, and many more. So I'm looking forward for a great session, that too interactive. So by interaction, I mean that you have to switch on your video camera. So please switch on your video camera so that the session is more interactive. And if you have any doubts in between the sessions, you can just drop a text in the chat box, or you can interrupt us. That's not an issue. We'll also be taking a doubt session at the end of the event for around 15 minutes, so you can note down your doubts and then ask us after that. So, is Aditya here already, Mehak?
Yes, sir. The stage is all yours.
Yes, is Aditya here? So I'll be sharing my screen also because I
Yes,
prepared
sir.
a presentation. So just give me a moment. Okay, so is the screen visible to everyone? Just give me a confirmation once.
Yes, sir. Your
Yes,
screen
sir.
is okay.
All right, great. All right, so on behalf of UNYC, I welcome you to Model United Nations Training Workshop that is being conducted today. For the mock MUN that will be on the 19th of this month, that is 1 week. So we'll be starting with it. Aditya is my co-speaker. He'll be joining shortly, and he'll be explaining you all the rules of procedure, how the MUN works, and how do we procedurally move in a sorted workflow in an MUN. So before that, I'll be giving a brief about the introduction of MUNs, what MUNs are, what happens in an MUN, and how does it work. So firstly, MUNs, like as the name suggests, Model United Nations, they are basically simulations of the real world United Nations. It comprises of different committees that we'll discuss in brief. So so in every committee there's a mandate. So a mandate is basically a document which says that how many portfolios can be there in a committee. So for instance, the UN General Assembly has a mandate of 193 countries. Could be 194 now because of South Sudan. So those 194 countries, so each delegate represents one country. So you people are the delegates and you will be representing one country that would be allotted to you by the administrator. So after that comes the protocols. There are two protocols in the MUN that we follow. So first is the UN4 MUN protocol, rules of procedure, and then there's a UNA USA. So for the sake of the mock session that we'll be having, and for the sake of this training session also, we'll be following the UNA USA because it's easier to explain and it's easier to understand, it's easier to do. However, we'll also be touching a few topics of UN4 MUN. There's not a lot of difference between the two. So yeah, so moving forward, an MUN conference consists of firstly committees. So you must be knowing the six major organs of the United Nations. So in these organs, there are multiple committees. So firstly comes the UN General Assembly. The UN General Assembly is further subdivided into three more committees. That is SPECPOL, DISEC, and there's another one. So that's for the UN General Assembly. Then we have the UN Security Council, which has the P5 members. So anyone here who knows what P5 is, or who can tell what all countries come in P5? Anyone from, just drop in a chat or just speak up. Because I want this to be interactive, so guys, you'll have to. So if anyone can tell me what comprises of the P5 in the Security Council.
So can I? Yeah,
sure,
China,
please.
America,
Please go
France.
ahead.
It's already written, so you already know that it's the permanent members that are of the United Nations. So they are the 5P.
And what about P5 plus 1? Any idea about the P5 plus 1 country? There's one more country that's not included in the P5, but the UN recognizes them as an additional member. So anyone has any idea what is P5 plus 1, which country it is? I'll just give you a hint, it's in Europe itself. There's another P5 plus 1.
Can I?
Yeah, sure, please go ahead.
Germany.
Germany, perfect. So as you guys must have seen in the news also, India is also trying to be part of the P5. India currently holds the position of chairing the United Nations Security Council for the next 2 years. But is, however, not member of the P5 or P5 plus 1, but the government of Foreign Directorate is trying to get P5+2 position in the UN Security Council. So that was Security Council. Then we have the United Nations Human Rights Council, that is the UNHRC. It's a very popular committee. It has a mandate of about 35 to 42 countries and portfolios. And after that comes the ECOSOC, which is the Economic and Social Cultural Committee. Then we have WHO. Then we have a committee which specializes for women rights, etc., etc. So after those committees comes the delegates. So you are the delegates. So each delegate gets one country that she has to represent, and on whatever the delegates speak, what they speak, when they speak, what they speak, and like how they speak is all moderated by the executive board. That is the third point. So the executive board consists of three people. That's the chairperson. I'll go hierarchy-wise. So first is the chairperson who moderates the committee. Then comes the vice chairperson who maintains the verbatim. So anyone has any idea what a verbatim is? It's a bit difficult one, but if you have any idea what a verbatim is, it's a document, but what does the verbatim hold? Anyone in the session? Please speak up. No one? Okay. So verbatim is a document which is maintained by the executive board. It's basically in form of an Excel sheet. So what the executive board does is, in the verbatim, they note down whatever you speak in your journal speakers list in your moderated caucus. And it helps later on when the executive board gives the points or rewards to the delegates. And then comes lastly the third person, that is the rapporteur of the committee. So the main role of the rapporteur of the committee is that he or she moderates the chits. So there are a couple of different types of chits that my co-speaker Aditya will be talking about in the ROP. So he marks those chits, the rapporteur, he marks those chits, and he gives points accordingly to the delegates. So this is for the General Assembly. In the UNHRC, however, the executive board, it's called differently. We have the president, vice president, and then the rapporteur. The rapporteur is a common one. It stays in all the committees, but the name, it changes. So for instance, in Indian committees, there's Lok Sabha and AIPPM. So there's the moderator, then there's director. Yeah. So after that comes the secretariat. So in the secretariat, there are a couple of main core team members. First, hierarchy-wise, comes the director general, who is the head of the conference. His role is basically directing the whole MUN, how it will go, and how all the operational and management things will go. Under the Director General comes the Secretary General, which you can also assume as CEO of any company. So the Secretary General is the CEO of the MUN. He or she makes sure the MUN goes in a laminar flow and there's no room for error or anything. So under the Secretary General, there are USGs. So USGs are under Secretary Generals. So under Secretary Generals are of different kinds: USG Finance, USG Marketing, PR, Delegate Affairs, AP Affairs, and the list goes on. So, and I also know that this might be confusing because I'm taking a lot of technical names. So if you guys have any problems, please just interrupt me anytime. Ask as many questions as you want. It's okay. I don't mind. Because I know it's a lot of technicalities involved in this. So if you have any doubts, you can come up and speak anytime. So assisting the secretariat comes the organizing committee, or what we call the OC. So there are 4 to 5 OC members in the secretariat, under the secretariat, sorry. And the organizing committee makes sure that in each committee room, the flow is sustained. And if the EB requires any logistics or any management help, the OC adheres to it. And there's also a special, executive board. It's called the IP. So IP is International Press. So it's not important for all the people to join the MUN as delegates. So what happens in IP is you have 3 to 4 things. So in IP comes journalism, then comes photography, then comes cartoonists, and a couple of other additional supportive members that report the whole proceedings of the committee, and a newsletter is published at the end of the conference. So yeah, that's for the introduction of the Model United Nations. Now I'll be handing over the stage to Aditya. Is he here already?
Sir. Yes, sir, he is here. So thank you, sir, for your wonderful
Okay, I'll
enlightenment.
be continuing later on. I'll be telling you how to do the GSL's position paper, and I'll give you also some suggestions, guidelines, and tips later on. But for now, Aditya will be taking the stage and he'll be explaining you the rules of procedure. That is the UN4 MUN procedure plus the UNA USA procedure. So Aditya, the floor is yours.
So guys, now I would like to acknowledge the presence of a speaker who has done 25 MUNs. 14 were offline and the rest 11 were online, and he has won 17 out of those 25 MUNs. He likes mainly committees, Indian committees like Lok Sabha and All India Political Parties Meet, AIPPM, and in UN he likes the environmental committees. So with a lot of great excitement, I welcome Mr. Aditya Raut. The stage is all yours. Aditya, if you're here, please.
Thank you, Aritrava. Thank you for the lovely introduction.
So the stage is all yours. Aditya, go ahead.
I'll switch on the camera.
And everyone, there's a request again. Please switch on your camera. This is an interactive session. We are not giving you a lecture like normal classes. This is not your normal class or anything. So please just switch on your camera.
Yes, guys, everyone.
Thank you.
Please switch on your cameras. It would be very great if you do so. And Aditya, you can move ahead.
All right, thank you so much. I'll be explaining the rules of procedure, and as you know, I'll be firstly explaining the UNA USA rules, and then I'll make a comparison and let you understand the UN formal rules of procedure as well. So we'll start immediately. We'll start with the first basic thing, which is the language. Now, there are certain official and working languages that are there in the United Nations. Majorly they are English, French, and Spanish is even a language. But in MUNs, we normally follow English as the major language. In Indian committees, you can go for Hindi as well, or any other regional language that is understandable. Second would be, yes, a very important word that you would be hearing in MUNs would be decorum. You have to maintain decorum at all points in time. Decorum is something which is known as a discipline. So you have to be disciplined all around, and you cannot do cross-talks. Like two delegates cannot speak amongst each other while on record. Like I cannot be the delegate of India and I cannot say that, yes, delegate of Pakistan has made a deliberatory statement against mine. No, that cannot happen. You have to speak only with the permission from the executive board, or whenever he allows you to, or whenever he recognizes you to. You cannot speak on your own like that. So we'll move on as, yes, Kuvar has already told you about the secretary members. So we'll move on to the setting of the agenda. So agenda is specifically a topic which is to be discussed in the MUN. There could be sub-agendas under it. Sub-agendas, for example, I'll give you. For example, if there is development is the agenda, you could the sub-agendas could be like economic development, social development, or infrastructural development. Those could be the sub-agendas, right? So that is how the agendas are done. You would be deciding among yourselves about what the sub-agendas would be. And further, you would be deciding if there are two agendas or let's say three agendas, you would be deciding which agenda is to be taken first. Now we'll come to the quorum. All right, so basically there's always a quorum for everything. Like we need a certain number of members to be present in an MUN or in United Nations for the committee to start its proceedings. So here, normally in MUNs, it's 1/3, but here, any number of person who are there, we calculate according to that. So that is another important aspect. Like without the quorum being established, we cannot move further in a procedural during the procedures. So yes, important is the speakers list. There is a speakers list during the GSL, which is known as the General Speakers List. You go with there's a list of speakers that are recognized by the executive board as to how you are going to speak, who is going to be a number one speaker, who is going to be number second, and the order as such. So let's say the first one to speak is delegate of India. The second would be recognized by the delegate of USA. Third would be delegate of Pakistan. And the similar fashion you are going to speak. You cannot speak like before or after someone. Yes, we may consider certain relaxation, but this is the order that you should follow always. And that order would be established by the chairperson. He would be recognizing as to who is going to speak. You would be doing it the raise of placard. Offline amendments, we raise our placards to show that we want to speak, and executive board recognizes us. But in offline amendments, we just write it down on, like online amendments, we just write it down on the chat box, and then we get recognized. All right. So yes, moving on, we have the roll call. Now, what is the roll call? The roll call specifically is what we all know is either present. Either if a person is present, then he says present, or if the person is absent, then there is no further requirement. But there's also another thing which is known as present and voting. So what happens when you say present and voting is that you have to mandatorily vote every time when the anything is being taken up for voting. Like if you say you are present, that means you may or you may not vote. That is upon to you. But when you take up present and voting, that means you have to mandatorily vote. You cannot abstain. And if it is a procedural voting, that is, it is required for the procedure of the committee to go on, then you mandatorily have to vote whatever preference you have taken. If you have taken present also, then also you have to vote. If you have taken present and voting, then obviously you have to vote. Now, after that, we have, the most important thing, the caucuses. Now, there are two caucus, one being the moderated caucus, the second being the unmoderated caucus. Now, what do you mean by moderated caucus is that the session, the moderated caucus, in moderated caucus, the session will be moderated by the chairperson. So you cannot haphazardly come up and start speaking. You have to speak whenever your turn comes, and you have to speak for a limited duration of time. That is what is known as moderated caucus. An unmoderated caucus is something where there is no time limit as to how much you want to speak or who can speak. You can just randomly stand up and start speaking, and there will be no moderation. There will be no one stopping you. But however, it is always advisable that you speak and you let other delegates also speak, because we see here we are here to say what we want, but we are also here to listen to others. Because if you do not know what they want to say, then we cannot come into a conclusion, right? So you may be speaking, but it is advisable that you speak for a limited amount of time and let others speak as well, so that they can put forward their views. Now, the moderate caucus and unmoderated, after moderate caucus and unmoderated caucus, we come to, points. There are 4 points. Points of order, points of personal privilege, point of information, and point of parliamentary inquiry. So a point of order is a sort of a factual inaccuracy that has been done by a delegate. For example, let's say the delegate of India says the capital of the capital of India is Mumbai. Now you know that the capital of India is not Mumbai. The capital of India is New Delhi. So what you do is you raise a point of order. The point of order against the delegate of India. So you say that court, the delegate said, Mumbai is the capital of India, then unquote, then you say the correct statement, that New Delhi is the capital of India. There you get marks. If the EB recognizes, then you get marks on that. So that is on a factual fallacy that happens, then you can raise a point of order. You can also raise a point of order on something that has been done wrong by the executive board. I'll be saying you these. I'll be telling you these procedures. So if at some point if the executive board does not abide to these procedures, then you can raise a point of order on the executive board, and there also you will be getting recognized. You'll be getting marks for that too. If the point is, for example, I'll give you an example. In the speakers list, let's say India, Pakistan, USA. But what the executive board does is it recognizes India, then it says that USA, then USA starts to speak. But USA is third in the order, right? So that is a factual, that's a fallacy. That is something that is wrong, being done wrong by the executive board. So you can raise your point of order. Sir, no. After India, that was Pakistan, then USA, but USA speaking second. So it's a point of order. All right. Moving on, the next is the point of personal privilege. Now, point of personal privilege in its own means point of personal discomfort. We all understand that you all would be, when you will be representing your nations, you will be very high dignitaries. You will be very high officials of your country, maybe the foreign minister or the foreign secretary. So your comfort is of utmost importance to the United Nations or to the executive board. So whenever you feel discomfort, you can always raise a point of personal privilege. Now remember a fact that point of personal privilege is the only point which speaker while speaking. No other point can interrupt a speaker. But if you are facing certain discomfort, you can raise a point of personal privilege and the speaker has to mandatory stop speaking. And after your issue is addressed, after that the speaker may speak. So moving on is the third, is the point of parliamentary inquiry. Now, what is parliamentary inquiry? Parliamentary inquiry means if you have any doubt regarding the procedure, or if you have any doubt that needs to be addressed regarding how the committee works, then that would be a point of parliamentary inquiry. In simple words, a point of inquiry. You want to inquire something. The fourth one is the point of information. What is point of information? If you demand certain information from certain delegates, for example, the delegate of India has just given a speech and I could not understand certain facts and I wanted clarification on the basis of those facts. So what I do is I raise my placard, I say point of information. So I ask the delegate, you said so and so, could you elaborate the point, or could you tell us what are its implications, or how do you propose to implement it? So these are the sort of questions that you ask. You also get marked upon asking questions as well as answering these questions if they are asked to you. Now, after points, we move on to yields. Yields in the sense are, United Nations is a very important committee or an important organization in the world. So the time that they have is very important. Their time cannot be wasted because there are always heads of nations there. So they are very high dignitaries. Their times cannot be wasted. So what we do is, whenever you speak, if there is some sort of time left, for example, you speak for 90 seconds. Your time limit is 90 seconds. You make a speech that gets over by 60 seconds. So there are 30 seconds left. Now we cannot, let go of the 30 seconds and chill for those 30 seconds because United Nations is a very sophisticated committee. We cannot just chill for those 30 seconds. So what we do is we yield it. Now yield are of three types: yield to the executive board, yield to another delegate, or yield to point of information. Now when you yield to the executive board takes those 30 seconds of your time and they utilize it in their own way, maybe in the procedural things or any other way possible. Or you can yield it to another delegate. Now what happens when you yield it to another delegate is that, for example, let's say the delegate of India is speaking, the time limit is 90 seconds. You speak for 60 seconds, you have 30 seconds remaining. Then you say that I don't want to speak further. I want to yield my time to a delegate of USA. So the delegate of USA might be having a lot more points to make, a lot more, he wants to say a lot more. So he will utilize that time in his speech. So 90 plus 30 seconds. The USA will speak for 120 seconds. So that is how you yield your time. Now, remember one thing, that while yielding, you have to tell the person whom you will be giving your time in advance that yes, I'll be left with 30 seconds of time and I'll be giving it to you. That person has to be aware of it beforehand. You cannot just go on spot and you abruptly finish your speech in 60 seconds and then say, I have got 30 seconds and I yield it to a delegate of USA. He would be surprised, right? He would not be prepared to be speaking just at the moment. So you have to inform that person beforehand. Now the third one is point yield for the points of information. As I mentioned, points of information are certain information that you ask from other delegates. Similarly, yield to points of information means it would make other delegates ask questions to you. If they need some information, or they need to ask you some questions, or they need some answers from you, they would ask you questions in the meantime. All right. So, so far, does anyone have any doubt?
So guys, anyone having any questions, please put it in the chat box.
I had a doubt.
Yeah.
So usually in unmoderated caucus, the delegates usually lobby, right, for the moving on agendas and stuff. So I've done that in offline mode. I find it rather challenging on online mode. So how would you recommend to do it?
All right. So yes, a good point. In online mode, what you do is we always go on different platforms, like so, for example, Zoom or Google Meet. So there is no one who can stop you from speaking. Like you can speak a lot of time while other person can also speak. So there will be a lot of commotion.
Yes.
So what you could do is you could speak for a minute or so, or that is depends on your convincing power. So if you can convince others to let you speak first. So you would be speaking first for, like, let's say 60 seconds or something. For the example, for let's say the time limit is 10 minutes on moderate caucus. You can speak for 60 seconds or 75 seconds, and then put your views, and then let others speak. So that way, what it happens is that you will be respected as well. Like they would understand, yes, he is speaking and he is letting us speak as well. So next time we will also give him the opportunity to speak.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Guys, please clear your doubts now, because I know ROPs can be really confusing and they're difficult to understand also. So if you want Aditya to repeat anything, any section of what he said, please come up or just drop a text in the chat box.
Yes, I have a doubt. Can you please explain the point that yield to delegate that you just mentioned?
It's known as the yield to another delegate. I'll give you an example. Like, let's say I am the delegate of India. I have to speak for 90 seconds in a moderated caucus, and you are the delegate of, let's say, USA. So I will be finishing off, looking at the content of my speech, I'll be finishing off in 60 seconds. I'll have 30 seconds left. So that is upon me as to how would I be spending those 30 seconds. Now I look, you are a good friend of mine, so I say let's ask him that would you be like to speak more 30 seconds? Like you will be getting your 90 seconds plus 30 seconds. So I don't think no one will say no to that. So you would say yes, I want to speak. So what I do is I go on, I finish my speech 60 seconds. Then the executive board asks me, you have 30 seconds remaining. How would you like to yield your time? I would say that I would yield it to the delegate of USA. So you are informed about it previously. You know that I'll be yielding you my time, and then you receive that time and you will be speaking for 90 plus 30 seconds. So your total time becomes 120 seconds. You will be speaking for 120 seconds in the particular moderator caucus. Is it clear, ma'am?
Okay. Thank you. Got it.
Yes. Anyone else?
Guys, do interact. You can even ask questions in chat box. If you have technical glitch in opening your mic or camera, they will be solving all your doubts, because these are really very complex technicalities. So you must understand everything before going on into the field. Anyone having any simple doubt, no one is judging you for your doubts. You all can come up and ask your doubts. They would be very happy to clear them
I
all.
had another doubt.
Yes, please.
Usually we send chits to the chair, right? Like points. How do you send that in online form?
Yeah, all right. So basically, the chits. Yeah, I'll be explaining about the chits as well. The chits are something which are a sort of informal talks between two delegates. Like, for example, a delegate of USA wants to say something to the delegate of India, but does not want the committee to hear what he wants to say. So what we do is we take the use of chits. We send a chit from the delegate of India to the delegate of USA. In offline emails, we usually write it down on a piece of paper and send it through a liaison officer that we have. Yeah, we send it through him. But in online emails, what we could do is you always have our WhatsApp numbers in the group that we will be making. Yeah, so you could directly ping us on WhatsApp, or if it's a question, if it's a point of information, then you have to put it on the group so that the other delegates also knows what point of information is being asked, and we also take a note of it.
No, you can also send chits to the chair, right?
Yeah, so that would be done directly. You could send us to us, right, on our WhatsApp or
Okay, so
During the
directly.
let me just clear that. So there are different kinds of chits actually.
Yeah.
Aditya, could you explain the substantive chit and via EB chit and a direct chit?
Yeah. Alright, so basically what happens, chits, as I said, they are a form of talking between two delegates. So in a substantive chit, what you do is you have given a speech. There is some part of speech that is left due to maybe time constraint. You could not say that part. So you would be writing it down on the chit and you would be sending it to the executive board for that point to be noted down and marked upon that. Now, there is a tip to the EB as well. So if you have something to say to the EB or you have to convey something to the EB, or maybe certain point of orders are also taken on chits. So you write from the delegate of India to the EB and then send it. So that will be received only by the executive board. No other delegate will be taking a look at it. And we would be receiving it. Then we would be addressing your whatever you want to tell us. We would be addressing that. In online emails, we would be might be taking up in the WhatsApp or any other means which would be told to you beforehand. And there is another chit which is known as from a country to another country, from delegate to another delegate. So in that, the major format is from the delegate of India to the delegate of USA. If you want that chit to be seen by the executive board, you can write via executive board or through executive board. That will go through us and it would reach you. So that way, all your questions, if you are asking, that would be answered as well, and it would be noted down by us as well. So that's a beneficial for both the parties who are taking up that. If, for example, the delegate of India asks a question to the delegate of USA, it goes and he says that it's written via EB. So we will receive it first. We will note down the question, then we will send it to the delegate of India. The delegate of India, if replies, would again send it to us. We would note down the answer, then again send it back to the person who should receive it. So that way, what we do is we note down the question, we note down the answer, and the person who has sent the question, he would get marked upon the question, and the person who has sent the answer gets marked upon the answer as well. Yes, that's the format of chit, as Kumar sir has said. It's written from India to China. If you want the executive board to read it, it could be written via EB, and then you write the content in the below format.
Okay, so it's like if we send it through via EB, the chit that we send it via EB, then only then we will be able to get marks. Otherwise, we won't be able to get marks, right?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And we also recommend, I'll also be talking about that in the tips, that if you are giving some chits to another delegate, then make sure you do it via EB so that your chit is recognized and is marked. But that chit also should not contain unnecessary information. Okay, I'll just give you a normal example. What happens usually while I was rapporting once in the starting 2-3 years back. So chit came from France, I guess. So he just said, ki, what has your country done for this XYZ, whatever the agenda was? Okay, so that is something that the EB does not want to know. What the other country has done for that. The other country can himself explain what it has done in the GSL or the moderated caucus. Those kinds of chits are annoying and they are not healthy. So you might be marked down upon because EB does not want to be annoyed, right? So only send those chits which have some background, some base, and has some source cited. I'll talk about the sources later on, but do not send unnecessary chits in the mock session that will be coming out.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. So if there are no further doubts, we'll move on to the procedure of voting.
Aditya, someone is asking, can you please explain the role play? Just
Role play.
role play. Shruti Sachan wants to know about role play once again.
Ma'am, could you just tell me what do you want to like? I don't understand what role play is.
Shruti Sachan, you can unmute yourself if you are here. Shruti, are you there?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
you can ask.
Yes. So could you just tell me what do you mean by role play? Like what part?
Actually, some minutes ago you told us about the role play and how to. So I want to know it again.
Okay. Right. So
Shruti, can you please just elaborate on role play, like which section did you not understand? Because I don't think Aditya mentioned anything as role play.
yeah.
There's nothing in the MUN called role play. So can you please just elaborate what you mean? Can you just rephrase your question for us? Or just type it in if you do not want to speak up. It's okay. It's absolutely fine. Just type it in the chat. Please elaborate. Also, Aditya, after you please just tell them how it will go in a flow format. Like what happened in the committee first, what happened second, what happened third. Like first in the GSL, then someone raised a motion for the moderated and unmoderated caucus, and then the draft resolution and all. So after you're done with explaining all the ROPs, just tell them that how the flow is going.
Yeah. Right, so we are left with only the last part of the ROPs, like this is the voting push procedure. So as I mentioned earlier also, there is the present and voting that I mentioned. So in present and voting, you have to mandatorily vote for all the voting that takes place inside the committee. If you are only saying present, then you may abstain from voting. However, all members are always advised to vote because we are following a democratic form of government in India and also in the United Nations where we hear everyone's voice. So whatever you want to tell us or whatever you want to convey through your vote, you should do that so that we understand that what your complete stance is. Now, after
Aditya, unmute yourself. You have unmuted.
yeah. Sorry. Yeah. After voting, I think yes, the motions. There are certain motions to adjourn the committee. So there is an adjournment motion where you say that there is a specific phrase that the delegate of so and so country wants to suspend the formal debate and adjourn the motion, adjourn the committee sine die. Now, so what does sine die means is that until further notice. So we adjourn the committee till we meet again, right? So those are the motions. Now I will take you through what happens in a phase wise. First, we set the agenda. How do we set the agenda? We discuss. Normally in MUNs we discuss and deliberate upon what agendas we are going to discuss. If there are two agendas, then you have to discuss as to which agenda is to be taken first, and then you set the agenda. So you propose a motion. Let's say the delegate of so and so country proposes a motion to set this. So, for example, crisis in Afghanistan as the agenda for the day. So you set the agenda, and then we move on. Then would be coming to the GSL. Now, GSL is the general speakers list, which is the very important aspect of a MUN. Now, the GSL cannot exhaust. Like the names in the GSL would be taken up, they cannot get over. If it gets over, then the committee itself has to be stopped because there are no further speakers, right? So who is going to speak? If there is no one recognized to speak, then there will be no further speakers and the committee will have to be stopped. So it is always advisable that once you have spoken, so let's say the executive board asks for speakers who want to speak in the GSL, you raise your placard or you get recognized. Let's say India, USA, Pakistan, Afghanistan, France, Germany, Russia. The list goes on. The list goes on. And once you have spoken, you can always give your name again to speak in the GSL. Now, between the GSL, we break sometimes for let's say a moderated caucus or an unmoderated caucus. So moderated caucus normally has the topics which are the sub agendas. Like if there is a agenda, you have broken certain subtopics and you put that in the moderated caucuses, let's say 1, 2 or 3 moderated caucuses, and then we move on to that specific part. For example, if the agenda is a crisis in Afghanistan, the subtopics would be like rights, violation of women rights, that would be a topic, arms embargo, that would be a topic, rise of terrorism, that could be a topic. So you divide the agenda, then you go for a moderated caucus on that particular agenda, then finish it up. We again move back to the GSL, then again the similar process continues. We again break, we again move on to a second moderated caucus. We finish it, we again move back to the GSL. So every time we finish a moderated caucus, we'll be reverting back to the GSL. After taking 3 or 4 speakers, we'll again move back to the moderated caucus. And in between, you are allowed to take an unmoderated caucus at any point of time. It is only dependent on the committee. Whenever you want to take up an unmoderated caucus, you can decide among yourselves and you can take up an unmoderated caucus. Unmoderated caucus are normally taken to decide what to do further, what we are supposed to do in the forthcoming events. So that you have to decide by taking an unmoderated caucus. Now, unmoderated caucus, after we finish those off, I think after that we have, in specific committees, we have the draft resolutions or the working papers, which are the documentation that you do. So I think Kuva sir would be explaining about them. And this is the basic process that you follow. You keep on following this process until the end of the committee. You do a GSL, you go to moderate caucus. One thing to remember is that in between, all these moderated caucus or unmoderated caucus will be done by the process of voting. So you have to vote. Like if you want this moderated caucus to be taken up, you have to vote that yes, I want this moderated caucus to be taken up. So I will vote yes. If you don't want it, you can vote no. Okay. So these are procedural voting, so you cannot abstain from voting. Remember this. And we move on from like this. Yes, another important fact that Mercer said, that the sources that are verified and allowed to cite in MUN are the follows. And he would be explaining those to you as well. And that's it from my part. I think I have explained all the rules of procedures.
Thanks, Aditya. Thank you, Aditya. For
So any doubts anyone having regarding the rules of procedure, we can repeat everything again if you guys want. So please just tell us before I begin with how to write the GSL and the position paper. Any doubt, anything, even if it's a little doubt, does not matter. Even if it's embarrassing or whatever, we don't care. Just tell us. No one? Okay, so I'll be sharing my screen again. Give me just a moment. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's start with the journal speakers list. As Aditya has already told you, the first thing which happens in a committee, like when the committee has started, the first thing that happens is your GSL, which is called the journal speakers list. As I mentioned in the chat box, it is not compulsory, but the executive board highly recommends it in order to mark you and judge you. So GSL, it's a speech. It's a formal speech that is of 90 to 120 seconds. given by the delegates explaining their country's stance and actions taken on the agenda. So the format for writing a GSL is first, okay, so just from my side, it's an advice that whenever you're writing a GSL, even for the mock MUN or for any MUN you'll do in the future, start with a quote or some statistical data or maybe a question. It could be rhetorical as well, but start with these three things. It really gives a good impact to the executive board and to the fellow delegates. All right. So now coming to the main format. So first is the introduction. So basically there are around 3 paragraphs that you have to write in a GSL. It is 1 page long, not more than 1 page, because you have to speak in less than 90 seconds or 120 seconds or whatever the delegates decide the time limit. So in the introduction, you start with the demographics of your country's foreign policy, and the ongoing crisis in your country. So that's the first paragraph. In the second paragraph comes the main content or the points which you want to put forward. So in that, firstly, the subpoint comes the correlation between the agenda and your country, like how the agenda is affecting your country. And then what actions are taken by your government and what steps should be taken to resolve the issue or the crisis. And the third paragraph is called the call to action paragraph. That's basically formalizing a resolution, an action plan, a collaborative action plan with other members in the committee, and what the country's capability is to resolve the conflict going on. So, for instance, if there's a war going on somewhere and you're a delegate of the United States, so you might include in your GSL that you can intervene and how you can intervene, when you will intervene, and what all sources you will provide to the United Nations to counter the whatever war is going on anywhere in the world. It's just an example. So this is a journal speakers list, and it is advised. Okay, so I'll talk about more later on in the tips. So any doubts anyone has in journal speakers list?
Can the GSL be more than 120 seconds?
No, 120 seconds is the maximum time.
Can you please explain call to action?
Okay, so the last paragraph is called the call to action paragraph. It's basically you give your resolutions, like what your country can do to help or prevent the crisis of the agenda. So if the agenda was of Afghanistan, let's say Afghanistan because it's a hot topic, and you're the delegate of India, so you'll be formalizing a resolution. You'll be giving 4 or 5 points, telling what could be done, what actions could be taken in order to counter the ongoing crisis.
Yeah, but isn't that what we're mentioning in the main content?
No, that is actions taken by your government and the steps taken to resolve the issue by your government. In call to action, what you basically do is that you formalize a as I said, it's a collaborative action plan with the UN or with the other members of the committee. So you can say with India, Russia could also be there. It depends on your foreign policy. And it's not important that you have to, go according to this format ki main content mein ye hai, to main yahi bolungi, call to action mein ye hai, so I'll just speak this only. You can intertwine between them. It's okay. That does not matter. But this is the basic format on what you should speak. All right.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
In the GSL example, a delegate takes only 30 seconds. Can he yield the time to EB or another delegate?
Yes, of course. So now I'll tell you one thing. If you yield to the executive board might ask you a question, and that question could be heavy one, because coming from the executive board, and the executive board is experienced. All right. So I'll rather suggest not yielding your time to the executive board if you do not want to, get yourself into. If you are quite confident with your research, then yes, you can do that. It will get you a lot of marks if you give the correct answer. But if you cannot give the correct answer and then you still yield to the executive board, then it might be a bit of a problem in marking you. So instead of that, what you can do is you can yield to another delegate, as Zitya said, or you can go for another yields. Hope I answered your question.
Sir, Riya Singh is asking, is there any negative marking?
No, there's no negative marking in NMN. There's no negative marking.
Okay, I hope Riya's doubt is cleared.
Alright, so shall we move forward?
Guys, if anyone is having doubt, okay, Sagar Kumar is having some doubt. Can we directly blame another? Sagar Kumar, you can just unmute. Sagar Kumar. Okay, no issues. I am reading it out. Can we directly blame another country for a particular event or just talk about the event in GSL?
See, in an MUN, you have to be passive aggressive, not full aggressive. If you're full aggressive, then you are breaking some part of your diplomatic courtesy. And diplomatic courtesy is one thing that the executive board marks you upon. So you just cannot, directly blame a country. If you want to blame a country, blame them indirectly. Play with the words. Be smart, but you cannot. You can directly do it, but it's not recommended.
Okay, I hope Sagar Kumar's doubt is cleared. Anyone else who wanna clear some doubts? You can also ask in chat box. It's fine. It's not necessary to open your mic.
Hey, good evening, everyone.
Okay, yeah. Hello.
I want to ask that how is it decided that who will speak for which country? Because I think initially we are all doing it, doing this MUN within ourselves only.
So you're asking like how the portfolios are designated to different delegates?
Yeah.
Is that your question? Okay, that is done automatically by the administrator. The executive board is not involved in that. The secretariat does. And USG delegate affairs, to be precise. But however, you can request them to give you a specific country based, and they'll see if you have the valid experience for getting that country. For instance, you want Russia, right? It's a P5 member. So in order to get a P5 member, you need some prior experience. So if it's your first time, no one will give you Russia. So that's how it works. They might give you New Zealand, Australia, or some other country, but in order to get P5, you need experience because those countries hold power.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? Please come up, guys. Please come up.
Sir, we are having a doubt from Vanshika Raturi. She is asking, so what sort of question can we expect to put forward to us if we choose to yield the remaining time?
To the executive board? Is that what you're asking, if you yield to the executive board? So any question can be asked by the executive board. There's no specific criteria for that. It all depends on the executive board. They might ask you a question. There are chances that they might not also ask you a question. So it's totally upon them. But if they ask a question, like whenever I chair and someone yields to the executive board, I mostly ask a question. And that question is based on my thorough research. So if the delegate is confident with his or her research, then she can answer very fluently, but most of the times people aren't. So it's not really suggested.
Okay, so I hope Vanshika's doubt is also cleared. Anyone else want to come up? Yeah, okay. Anyone else? I hope everyone's doubt is cleared. So, sir, you can move ahead.
All right. So now we'll be coming to position papers. The speaker list is over. Okay. So yeah. So position paper is basically an essay, or you can call it an article written by the delegates explaining the country's position stance on the agenda in brief, usually 2 to 3 pages. Now it's brief, but it also is 2 to 3 pages. Now you might say it's similar to GSL. Yes, it is similar to GSL. And what I recommend always in training workshops is that you write your position paper first, and then from the position paper, you extract your GSL. All right, because if you've written the position paper well, then you can easily take up, I think, two GSLs very easily. So the format of a position paper is as follows. So in the first paragraph, there's a background, that is the introduction of the agenda, the country, the introduction of your country, introduction of the agenda, and the correlation between them as explained in the GSL. And then comes the main content, which is the past international actions that have been taken on the agenda, then the foreign policy of your government, and then the actions taken by your government to solve the issue. Then we come to the solutions point. Now, this solutions point is very important. What can your country do? What can UNO collectively do? And how to tackle the situation collectively, and not individually, collectively. So I'll just give you a tip. Whenever I write a position paper, even though I don't do it as a delegate anymore, but whenever I used to write position papers, I used to do solutions under two headings. First was what the country. Okay, so suppose I'm given New Zealand. So what New Zealand can do. Okay, and then comes what the UN should do collectively, what the goal of the UN should be collectively to tackle the situation in hand. And just jot down around 5 to 6 points. As many points you give in the position paper, it's better. Because you don't have to read your position paper. No one is gonna take your points. Okay, the position paper directly goes to the executive board, and the executive board marks on the basis of that. It is not shared. Because the GSL, the points you give in the GSL, they might be, copied by some other delegate because you're speaking a GSL, but in a position paper, you're not speaking a position paper, you're just submitting it to the executive board, so the confidentiality is maintained there. So as many points as you can give, you have to. More points you give, more marks you get. And lastly is the concluding paragraph, which is optional. You don't have to give the conclusion, but if you do, it just looks nice because it's a position paper. So in a paper, there's always an introduction and a conclusion. In the conclusion, you just give future scope, a brief about your position paper, what all you discuss in the position paper, and you're just describing a bit about the solutions you gave in the solution paragraphs and some concluding remarks you want to give. Okay, in the concluding remarks, you can add a quote, maybe, or you can give some statistical data. Yeah, so that's about it. So doubts for position papers, yes.
Okay, so when do we exactly write these position paper?
Okay, so for submitting the position paper, the deadline is usually a day before the MUN has to take place, 24 hours before. But in some cases, it does happen that you can submit it on the first day itself.
And how does it affect the agenda, like these position papers? Why do we exactly write them?
Okay, so position paper you write to describe what your position or your stance is on the agenda, what your government is doing. So that is for the formal part of it. What other reason you write the position paper is for yourself, because firstly you get your all your things and your research cleared out and penned down into a paper. So you're confident and you're clear about it. And secondly, it helps you writing your GSL also, because you can directly copy paste from your position paper. You can take out the GSL, and you can take out at least 2 GSLs from your position paper. So that's the role of the position paper. And position papers are really important if you want to get marks, because position papers hold a high value in eyes of the executive board.
Okay.
So there are 2 things that the executive board focuses on. One is the position paper, and the second one is your general speakers list.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else?
There's a question on the chat box.
Yeah. I can see the chat box because the slide is open. So can you just read it out?
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
So, yeah, go on. You read it.
Okay. So Eileen Cod is asking, position paper should be in point format or in paragraph format, or should the solution paragraph be the only one in point format out of the entire paper?
That's totally up to you. However, I recommend personally that you write in paragraphs and the solution paragraph you write in points. You give solution point wise, that is really well accepted by the executive board. Rest paragraphs are the basic things you do when you write a position paper. So 3 paragraphs are a must. If you want to write a conclusion, that's totally up to you. Yes, position papers are really important. It's more important than GSL, so please just clear your doubts.
So anyone else? Riya Singh is asking, what is the marking scheme for GSL and position papers?
Marking scheme for GSL and position papers. Okay, so GSL and position, see, it depends on the executive board how they want to mark. They can mark you out of 5, they can mark you out of 10. Usually, I mark position papers out of 10 and GSL out of 10 as well, and moderated caucus are out of 5. It's also out of 5. And these things are not disclosed, like how you will be evaluated or what would be the marking scheme. Usually, the executive board does not disclose this. And it's all maintained in the verbatim, which I discussed earlier. Anyone else?
Anyone else having any doubt? Okay, sir, Sagar Kumar is having a doubt. Does question paper should be strictly same or coherent with GSL?
It could be same also, does not matter. But I recommend you can add some additional points in the GSL just to make it a bit different and give it a personal touch.
Okay.
Because usually the position papers are marked beforehand. Okay, GSLs are marked on the spot. So the executive board does not remember what you wrote in your position paper because, as I told you, there are like 50, 60 delegates in one committee. So the executive board doesn't remember what the specific delegate wrote in a position paper. They just mark you and they leave your position paper like that. But they do remember your GSL, so both are important. But you can directly copy, that's not an issue.
So anybody else is having any doubt? Because this is going to be very helpful to you all during your, the mock MUN that we are going to conduct. And this is for surely you're gonna train for the further MUNs, the proper MUNs. So anybody else is having any doubt regarding what Kuvar or Aditya explained?
And another thing I wanted to add, like in the position paper, you have to also give citations. So citations are not exactly like how they are in a professional research or a review paper. It's not like that. You just give the links at the end of the paper. You title it as the references and then you give the links from trusted sources, which I have already mentioned in the chat box. And that's also one important point because that gives the credibility to your paper.
So anyone else? Okay, so sir, Priyanka is having another question. What's the homework for mock MUN? Okay, Priyanka, for that you will be informed very soon. I can feel you are very excited for it. Don't worry. It's only I can say that date is 19th, and the rest of the information about mock MUN will be shared from our side. So you can
keep following the Aspire MUN page. We'll be posting updates there only. So yeah. But
So
as
guys,
for homework, just prepare the position paper as of now. That's what I would say. Start researching. But you won't be able to research because we haven't allotted you your countries yet, so you don't even know the agenda yet. So you cannot do anything. But as soon as we do it, you can research about the agenda and you can write the first paragraph, that is the introduction of the agenda. At least you have something ready. After that, you'll be allotted
Yes, sir.
countries, and then you can continue with writing your position paper and submitting it.
Okay. So for Shruti, mock MUN will be like the MUN only?
Yes,
Yeah.
it would be like the MUN, but it would be only of 1 day on the
Yes, you will
19th
get
itself.
yes, you will get all the ideas about it, a practical experience. An environment will be created like that, and all the rest of the information will be definitely intimated to you. Also, guys, in the chat box, I have shared a link just seconds back for Ayush Pranav. Can we enroll for mock MUN? Anyone can enroll for it. The information will be sent to you. Do not worry. You can participate in it.
You can participate, you can call your friends even. It's
Yes. Yeah. And guys, there's a feedback form. Yeah, Rishabh and even YC has forwarded the links. You can follow the pages. Also, guys, do fill up the feedback form. I have shared a few seconds back. So, and get ready for mock MUN. It will train you, give an environment, how the actual MUN is like. For Ravi Teja. So, what are the benefits of participating in MUN competitions like this? Yes, sir.
Benefits of participating in MUN events. Say it brushes up your public speaking skills. It boosts up your confidence, your political and international affairs knowledge, and many other things. It's basically a skill development thing. Plus, you get not a lot of knowledge.
Exactly, Ravi Teja. I hope you have
So
got.
after the position paper, now we'll just come to the last section since we are about to elapse. So these are some guidelines and tips I want to share with you guys. I've just noted down, especially for you. So firstly, the GSL that you would be giving, it should be okay. So let's say it's a 90-second GSL that has been decided by the delegates that the GSL should be of 90 seconds. So what you guys should do to get more marks is that cut it down to minus 10 seconds. Give it for 75 or 80 seconds. Once you do that, what will you do with the rest of the 10 seconds now? Anyone has any idea what you will do with the rest of the 10 seconds? Will pertain to the points of information. Now, when you pertain to the points of information, you yield to the points of information, what happens is that the executive board sees that you have done your research, you're given a good GSL, now you're up for taking questions. So in the column of confidence, they'll mark you. And if you give correct answer, they'll also mark you in research column as well. All right, so the executive board in 10 seconds might allow just one question or maybe two questions, let's say. But if you answer them correctly and you're pretty positive that you have researched well, then you're getting a lot of marks. The second point is that 2 GSLs minimum. Okay, so for the mock session, I would say, yes, you can have 2 GSLs, even though if there are a lot of people, we won't have time to take 2 GSLs from a delegate. But whenever we're having the official MUN, it goes on for 2-3 days. So 2 GSLs are minimum if you want to get good marks from the executive board. And it's not just 2, you can give n number of GSL that, as Aditya already mentioned, the GSL never gets exhausted. GSL list keeps going on. You can add your name again and again, whatever. Even if you just want to speak for 20-30 seconds, speak, that does not matter. That will be counted as a GSL. But minimum of 2 should be there if you want to get in the top 3. Then always start with a quote, statistical data, or a question. As I said, it gives a good impression. It won't get you extra marks, but it'll just give a good impression to the fellow delegates as well as to the executive board. So I'm not saying that you have to please the executive board as such, but starting with the quote really helps. And then the fourth point is that give 4 to 5 solutions or resolution in the GSL as well as the position paper. So at the end of the GSL, try to give, if not 4, 5, at least 2 to 3 points, so that the vice chair can note it down in the verbatim that you spoke and you gave these resolutions. That'll just increase your chance of getting into the top 3. Then is maximum lobbying. Okay, so this is a bit controversial thing. What happens is the executive board usually says that in an unmoderated caucus, the executive board does not mark you. But what happens is that if you're lobbying and either of the 3 members of the executive board sees you lobbying really well, like you're becoming the leader of the group, okay, which is the other point, the next point, be the leader. So when they see you lobbying, they give you marks for lobbying as well, because there's a section of lobbying. The executive board says that they won't mark you, and usually they don't, but it just tells them that this person, that this delegate, has some potential. So after that is form blocks and socialize professionally. So even if you're an introvert, that does not matter. Just socialize professionally so that you are recognized among the delegate circle and they listen to you, whatever you'll say. All right, and then it'll help you form blocks also. Because in Security Council, especially, or in Crisis Committee, you have to form blocks. And why would people listen to you? You're just a random stranger to them. So socialize professionally. Make them your friends. And do not break your foreign policy. That's another point that just came to my mind. Do not break your foreign policy. China cannot form a bloc with the United States. I've seen delegates do this mistake a lot. They break their foreign policy, and it's not a good practice. Definitely not a good practice, because the executive board gets to know and then they don't mark you as such. Because as per the current situation, China cannot be an ally of the United States. All right. So then is speak up on behalf of other delegates and their points. Okay, so there's general practice that the executive board does after every unmoderated caucus. What the executive board does is the chairman, he or she will come up and then they'll ask a question, ki, what all did you discuss in the unmoderated caucus? What all happened? Can anyone tell me? So you should be the one raising your placard and telling on behalf of the other delegates that just these points were discussed, and these were what the resolutions we formed, and these are the topics that we have decided for the moderated caucus and for the flow of the committee. So that again gives a good impression to the executive board of you, and that again increases your chance. So then is maximum chits through EB. But as I said before, do not send, I won't say useless, because no chit is useless, but please send chits which are relevant enough. Okay, don't ask a one-line question to another delegate and then just send the chit via EB. That's not how it's done. If someone is counterattacking you, counterattack them and give the chit via EB. Or if you want to passive aggressively attack another country, attack as in, like verbally attack in chits in writing. So you can do that and do it via EB so that those chits are marked. And if you attach documents, which is called the evidences, then it's great. So the more the evidence, the more the citations from the trusted sources you have, and you attach them with your chits, the more marks you get. Just increases your credibility again. Then is the most important thing in an MUN is being passive aggressive. That's all. If you just become aggressive, that's a problem. If you're too passive, that's a problem. You have to be in the middle and you have to be passive aggressive whenever you are asking a question to someone or you are giving your speeches, be it GSL or moderated caucus. Just be passive aggressive with it, or even if you're writing a chat. Then comes diplomatic courtesy. So diplomatic courtesy is kind of a huge topic to discuss on, but I'll just tell you in one line that diplomatic courtesy is basically how you behave in a committee, what your etiquettes are, and you always call the other delegate as you don't call like by name. You say the delegate of France said this, and then there's another point that says there's another point that is that do not make eye contact with other delegates while you're asking them a question or anything, because that is taken aggressively. And always the executive board says it before the starting of the committee about the diplomatic courtesy. They always take 5 minutes to explain the diplomatic courtesy. And we'll also be doing that in the mock session. So don't worry about that. But these are the 2 points which I want you to be careful upon. And then lastly, maximum points of information. So research on your country and research on a couple of other countries that you want to target as well, so that you know what the country is doing, and then you can ask them those relevant questions. You can do it via EB chats, or you can ask them when they're giving their GSL, or if the EB allows, you can do it in the moderated caucus. All right, so these were some 10 to 12 points that I wanted you guys to know that will help you in doing your future MUNs, not just this one, but other MUNs as well. So with that, I come to the end of this presentation. So if anyone has any doubts, please just go ahead and ask.
Could you talk about the resolutions?
Resolutions as in?
The drafting resolutions at the end of the committee after all the
the draft resolution.
Yeah.
Okay. That Aditya will explain, but before that, I'll just tell you one thing. What happens at the end of the committee, there are 3 things. Either the committee publishes a draft resolution, either they release a press letter, a press release, or they release a communique. So what we'll be doing in the mock session, we'll be going on with the draft resolution. And for draft resolution, it's a whole different method to write a draft resolution. So Aditya is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you just explain them in 5 minutes what draft resolution is? Just the outline of it. Not in detail. We'll explain in detail. We'll explain in detail in the MUN itself, so that it's fresh to you, because it has clauses and a lot of things. But we'll just give you a basic outline of it. Aditya, you have the floor.
Yes. So draft resolution are basically a certain documentation that you get after MUN. So what happens in a draft resolution is that you write down the solutions, or basically what solutions you propose, you along with different countries, what solutions you propose for the agenda to be resolved. For example, there are many draft resolutions exist. We will be sending you 1 or 2 sample ones so that you get an idea of how it works. It contains the ideas or certain ways by which you can resolve the issue that is at hand. For example, let's say a draft resolution on the United Nations Security. United Security Council will always deal with security-related issues, right? So what they do in their draft resolution is more than one country come together, they club their ideas, they club the solutions that they have at hand, and then they organize it in a particular manner with the help of preambulatory clauses, and they frame it, and then they give it to the executive board for us to discuss it in front of the entire committee. Now, there are certain things that you need to keep in mind while drafting a resolution. One thing is that your resolution has to contain preambulatory clauses. Now, preambulatory clauses are certain things which will be explained later, so don't delve into that right now. But certain clauses are there, such as recalling, or let's say like different sorts of them, which will be explained to you. So you have to take that out, and you have to frame sentences. Remember, framing of the sentences has to be very professional, because a draft resolution is something which is a very important aspect of a committee. So you frame it properly, and it would always contain all the solutions that have been discussed in the committee. So you frame it, and then you give it to us. We'll be discussing it in front of all the delegates. If any delegates find any point, not accurate or not appropriate, then they can always propose amendments to the draft resolution. So amendments, as you know, amendments are meant for either um, changing certain lines of the statement that is there. So there could be amendments are different types. Like I know of deletion amendment where you delete a particular sentence or a particular point, or there's a friendly amendment or unfriendly amendment as well. Friendly amendment means he suggests something, you agree to it, and you mutually delete it. That's a friendly amendment. And unfriendly amendment where you do not agree to delete it, but he proposes it to be deleted and the committee agrees, yes, that should be deleted. So that's sort of unfriendly amendment. So it's sort of a paperwork that you would be explained, and this is just the basic. Yes.
Yes, and it's also not important for a committee to publish a draft resolution because we could also go with a working paper. So usually what happens in an MUN is before drafting the resolution, the EB asks the delegates for a working paper. What a working paper is basically you just note down your resolutions. For instance, a couple of countries can come together and they can make one working paper. And then in the working paper, they can, give different resolutions. Like Indonesia can give 4, 5, UK can give 2, 3. Based on your foreign policy, you come together and then you give points in an informal way. Please remember, in an informal way. Whereas in a draft resolution, everything is very formal. You have to use operator and preambulatory clauses. And I've already shared the link for that. You can go to that, you can read it. It's very well explained what the clauses are and how to use them. So you just click on the link. And I think we have a question from Anchika. How much time do we get to research about the agenda or topic before we actually have to speak about it? Like how prior we were notified about the topic. Okay, so the agenda we'll be providing you shortly within the next 2 days. Okay, and after that you can start with it. And as far as moderated caucus topics are concerned, they are on spot. You only have 5 minutes to prepare your moderated caucus speech. So it's more like, it's elocution type of thing or an extempore type of thing. Because in unmod, you discuss your topics, and once the unmod is finished, the executive board starts with whoever wants to, add their name to the list of the moderated caucus. So you barely have any time for that. So prepare at least 5 to 6 topics for moderated caucus beforehand, and 1 to 2 GSLs. So I think that should get your research done good. So anyone have any doubts regarding the ROPs or the things I discussed, the GSL position paper or the guidelines I gave, anything at all, please do now because we are about to end the session. So
I have a question, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, if I raise a motion to conduct a moderated caucus, then do we vote for that? That I wanna go with the moderated caucus.
Yes, we have a formal voting for that.
Okay, so if the votes aren't enough, so it gets rejected. The
motion gets rejected. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That's why you have to lobby in an unmod.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
So anyone else having any more questions? You can ask in the chat box or can directly come up. So I don't think anyone else is having any questions since nobody is coming up. So I guess we should wrap it up, right?
Yeah, sure, Aritraba. So, firstly, I would like to thank all of the two speakers who were there, who just spent so much and spoke so much about all the knowledge, about imparting all the things that a person should know before joining the MEN. And, guys, we are arranging this mock MEN just for you all, guys, so that you could be prepared beforehand. So you must be, participating it, register yourself in it, and I would just request the backend to drop all the links regarding the feedback form. Just drop that feedback form again in the group, in the chat box. And guys, you could follow the Aspire MUN, you could follow UNYC, and you could follow Jhankar for all the further inquiries or the things you want to know regarding MEN. So, anybody up for anything? Yeah. So here's the feedback form. It would just guide us regarding, further workshops that we're gonna conduct. It would just guide us regarding it.
Guys, I just dropped in my email. If you have any further doubts or anything, you can just directly email me and I'll get back to you. All right. If you think you have missed something or you want to get more explanation on something.
So you are having a person to guide you even. The Gmail is here. You could just note it up. Okay, so here's the further updates. Our Instagram accounts. Can I get a recording of this session, as I can't remember all of it? Riyad, that's why we are having this mock MEN, so that you could just practice it practically, because no one's gonna judge you there. Okay, so mock MEN is on 19th, this 19th. Okay, so Aritpa, you can just continue.
Okay. So thank you everyone. Thank you Kunvasai and Aditya Raut for imparting us such valuable knowledge. I hope all the participants would use it in the future in a positive way, all this information. And also I thank all the participants for being such a lovely and cooperating with us, interacting. It really made the event, this workshop, successful. So with this, and also all the recording, someone, I guess Ria asked, you can get it on the UNYC YouTube channel. Okay guys, so stay updated with that too. Okay, Ayush is having for a doubt, which committee for mock MEN?
Okay, so we haven't decided the committee yet, but it's most probably going to be the UN General Assembly. That's not confirmed. We'll let you know in 2 days with the agenda and the committee. That will be posted on the Instagram page as well, on all social media platforms. So please do follow.
Okay, so I guess it's done. So I hope you all enjoyed the session. And so this is me, Aditya Gupta, your today's host. I'm officially signing off. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone. If you have any further doubts, anything, just drop a text or an email. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
So guys, you can return to your daily course and leave the meet.